Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. In the second of 2 days with Ron Price talking about relationship in marriage. As we left the broadcast yesterday, Ron had just introduced the phrase HALT, which I had heard of before, and he's now explaining what those letters mean and their significance in relationship, husband and wife.
If I'm hungry, look out. Just give me something to eat. Don't try to talk about a problem or whatever. If I'm already angry about something else, that's not the time to engage with me if I'm feeling lonely or tired. So it's just warning signs that, issues need to be discussed within a family, within a marriage and within a family, but they don't have to be discussed right at the moment. And if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you know what? Let's postpone this conversation to a more convenient, more productive time.
Yeah,
is that the same definition that your wife had?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say along those same lines that there are times when I politely and gently ask my wife when she brings something up, honey, I understand the significance of what you're talking about, but could we wait until I get home from work before we discuss that?
Yeah. And I love that, Paul. Let me add to it if I may. A lot of times people will say, time out. I don't want to talk about this. Time out. And they walk off. That's a horrible thing to do. It's a horrible thing to do. What you need to do is say, I can't talk about this right now. I'll come back in an hour. Or just like you said, hey, let's talk about this after work this evening. You let the other person know you're just postponing the conversation. You're not refusing to have it.
You're not slamming the door on it.
Exactly. And when you just say time out and storm off, you know what you're doing. You're rejecting the argument, but the person left behind is wondering, well, wait a minute, are they rejecting me? Are they coming back? Or, what's going on? So important to call a timeout, but announce the time in. Let the other person know, hey, can't talk right now, but I will talk, and you establish the time so long as it's convenient for them as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
As far as commitment is concerned, one of the things we say sometimes among ourselves as believers is, the world who does not have the Lord is capable of saying, I'll live with you, or I'll be committed to you, or we'll maybe even get married. And then there's the ellipsis marks, the ... followed by, as long as you meet my needs, or as long as you make me happy. Mm-hmm. In light of that kind of hedging, I think that's maybe the right word.
It's a great word, yeah.
Hedging. Commitment is something that people seem to be afraid of because I would speculate because they're afraid that when the rub comes, they won't find it in themselves to actually live up to that commitment and do what needs to be done from their perspective and maintain the commitment they made to someone else. And as Dr. Harold Salas said a long, long time ago, marriage is not 50-50. It's 100-100 from each person.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, we need to realize commitment is a decision. It's not a feeling. Mm-hmm. Scott Stanley is my favorite expert on commitment. He talks about two kinds of commitment, dedication commitment and constraint commitment. Dedication is the kind we like. You know what? I am committed to you because I love you. I enjoy doing things with you. I enjoy being with you and doing things for you, I meant to say. That's dedication commitment. Constraint commitment, Paul, is, you know what? I'm not really happy right now, but, oh, man, do I really want to get divorce attorneys, and what would it do to the kids, and what would people say? And, so there's times we need both. Hopefully the majority is the dedication commitment. I'm committed to you because I said I was, and I meant it, and I'm going to keep my word. But again, times when things are not right, you know what, man, I don't know, but I said I'm staying. So both kind of commitments are important, and you're right, we're not seeing it. We have cheapened marriage in our society. I'm not here to judge anybody, but we've made it too easy to get into and too easy to get out of, in my humble opinion. And I think as a society, we're paying for that.
Well, my own perspective as a Christian believer is that God created marriage for a man and a woman as he did in the garden, and we've made it so available to just about everybody within any kind of context or permutation that in the end it gets so watered down that many people who don't have a personal faith of some kind, or in my case, of course, Christianity, that they don't. It gets to the point where they no longer really see marriage as having much value because it's gotten watered down so much it no longer has the value that God intended it to have.
That's a great point, Paul. And there's a guy named Gary Thomas who wrote the book Sacred Marriage. And I love the subtitle. I think you're going to like this as well. He said, what if God gave us marriage not to make us happy, but to make us holy? What if God gave us marriage and family as a living laboratory where you can live out and practice Christ-like selflessness and unconditional love? Isn't that a great thought?
Yes, it certainly is, yeah.
And again, commitment has to be a part of that. People who live together, I don't care how long, and then decide to get married are far more likely to get divorced. That's a statistic most people are not aware of. But they're happy, they're living together, they say, hey, let's get married. But if they're not prepared, the marriage changes things. And for the reason that you cited, commitment. When you're living together, it's, I like you, I'll hang out. But if it ever gets bad, I can leave anytime I want. Marriage is not supposed to be that way. And if people aren't ready for that change of mindset, they're in for trouble, typically. Not all, but very many.
Yeah. As far as marital intelligence is concerned, define that for me and listeners, and then explain why that is significant.
We all grew up knowing the term IQ, intellectual quotient. I think mine was 647 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, that was a joke, yes.
Yeah,
that was
okay. Let's see now, what scale were they, was that the metric scale as opposed to the...
yeah, something. Thank you for getting my humor. A lot of people aren't familiar with the scale, and they go, oh, okay. But we've heard of IQ. Recent times we hear a lot about EQ, emotional intelligence, which is a great subject to study. Well, I'm just suggesting that maybe we want to have marital quotient. How much do you know about marriage? How much do you know about your spouse? Do you know how to take a time out? Do you know how to communicate in a way that the other person will hear you and not get upset? Do you know the 5 germs that are sickening and killing off relationships? I write about those in the book. And do you know, again, the secret of the timeout rule? Do you know it's always the second person who causes an argument? It's never the first. I'm not saying you have to get a PhD and, study marriage forever before you get married. No, you can learn OJT. On-the-job learning is fine.
What you just said sounds very much along the lines of we may not be able or probably can't control what the other person does or how they respond. It's how we conduct ourselves and how we respond. And that I would presume under those circumstances, the formula you just mentioned, it would be the second person who would be making that choice.
And you used the perfect word, Paul. If we react, then we created the argument. Whatever the first person did, if we react in kind, we created the argument. But I love your word. If we can pause and respond with something like, wow, that didn't feel very good. Everything okay with you? Or, wow, I sure didn't like that. Did I just do something that bothered you or troubled you? If we can respond, if we can minister to their pain rather than reacting to the offense, those can be beautiful moments that God can use to strengthen the bond. Yep.
Thank you so much for your time, Ron. I appreciate, once again, you're spending some time with me and listeners here in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts for our broadcast.
Well, Paul, it's been my great pleasure and blessing, and I appreciate you so much. Keep up your good work and stay safe, would you?
That concludes these 2 days of conversation with Ron Price on the WIHS Journal. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.